My girlfriend letting her videographer friend film my public proposal. So I cut her off, texted Imagine thinking I'd stay, moved out, saved the login screenshot, signed off the lease, and her video reached parents, and she was placed on leave and lost the acting principal job. The jeweler texted me an invoice screenshot while I was standing in a stairwell with my tool bag open. It showed a refund, a restocking fee, and one short line that said returned by customer. My hand smelled like pipe sealant, and I still stared at that image like it was a bruise. I didn't feel angry first. I felt clean, like a decision had already been made somewhere deep and my brain was just catching up. My name is Tavian Brune, and I was 44 when I asked her to marry me. I service fire sprinkler systems in hotels and schools around northern Arizona. I check valves, test alarms, and watch gauges climb until I know the system will hold. A low-end price was 42. She was an assistant principal at a charter school in Flagstaff, the kind of job built on trust and calm authority. At home, she liked things neat, quiet, and controlled, like her life was a hallway with no clutter. We lived together in a second-floor apartment near Fort Tuthill. The place always smelled like citrus dish soap, and there was a little shoe rack by the door that she lined up like soldiers. Every night, our ceiling fan clicked once before it settled, and she hated that sound. The pressure on our life was a deadline. Aloan had an offer to become acting principal starting next month, and the board dinner was coming up in 2 weeks. She told me, straight-faced, that being engaged would look stable and stability mattered. That should have been romantic, but it felt like a checklist, and I told myself I was overthinking it. Her friends were the part of her life that always made me feel small. Especially Merk Vale, a freelance videographer who shot slick content for local brands and funny skits for his own page. Merk treated real moments like raw footage, and Aloan laughed at him like he was brilliant. One night, we ate tacos at our kitchen counter, and Aloan scrolled through a group chat. Merk had sent a video of some guy getting rejected in public, and everyone in the chat spammed laughing emojis. I asked, "Do you ever feel bad when people get humiliated like that?" Confrontation 1 happened right there. I asked, "If I ever looked stupid in public, would you protect me or laugh?" Aloan didn't even look up. She said, "Don't be sensitive, Tavian, it's not that deep." That answer stuck to me. Because people who love you don't call your dignity not that deep. And that was my first quiet warning. At work the next day, I ran a full pressure test on a dry system in a lodge outside Williams. The gauge needle rose slow and steady, and I watched for any drop that meant a hidden leak. I thought about my relationship the same way, and I hated that I had to. I still bought the ring. Not because I needed her approval, but because I believed in the life we were building. I picked a simple band with a small stone that caught light like ice, nothing loud, nothing flashy. Merk insisted we do it right. He said, proposals should be captured or they didn't happen. Aloan smiled and said, "See, he gets it." That was the second warning. A moment that should belong to us was already being handed to someone else, and I still walked forward because hope can be stubborn. I planned the proposal at a cozy restaurant in Flagstaff called Pinion Table. Warm wood, soft lamps, and a corner booth where the noise fades into a hum. Aloan wanted her friends there. She said it would make it special. So I agreed. Merk came with his camera bag like it was a job. 2 of Aloan's friends came too, and they were already laughing before we even ordered. Dinner started fine. Aloan looked beautiful, and she reached for my hand under the table like we were a team. Then Merk joked, "This better not be another boring grown-up dinner," and Aloan laughed like that was adorable. I waited until dessert plates were cleared. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat, and I stood up anyway. I walked around the table, got down on one knee, and opened the ring box. I said her name first, slow and steady, because I wanted it to sound real. Then I asked her to marry me. For 1 second, Aloan's face went blank. Not shocked, not happy. blank like she was choosing a mask, then she laughed. Not a nervous giggle, not a happy laugh, but a sharp laugh with teeth. She turned to her friends and said, "So delusional. Imagine thinking I'd marry him." The table erupted. Merk was already filming, and I could see his shoulders shaking while he laughed. Aloan covered her mouth with one hand like she was trying to look cute while crushing me. I felt my ears ring. The restaurant lights looked too bright, and I knew I had just been turned into content. I stood up slowly and said, "You're right." I closed the ring box, put it in my pocket, and walked out. I didn't look back because I didn't want their faces to be the last thing I carried. Outside, the cold air hit my lungs and made my eyes sting. I heard Aloan call my name once, not worried, just annoyed. And that was the moment I understood something simple. Respect is the first sprinkler head. If it fails, the whole building burns. And I wasn't going to stand there pretending the system worked. I drove home with my hands steady on the wheel. No music, no calls, just the sound of my turn signal clicking like a metronome. Aloan stayed out with them. I could tell because our shared location on the map still showed her dot moving across town. It wasn't spying. She had insisted we share it for safety. I went inside, and the apartment smelled like her vanilla lotion. Our little shoe rack sat by the door, perfect and lined up. I looked at it and felt nothing. I packed my things fast and quiet. Not everything, just what mattered, like I was evacuating during a drill. Clothes, documents, my work gear, and the few photos that still felt like mine. I didn't take her stuff. I didn't break anything. I just removed myself from the apartment the way you isolate a faulty valve before it floods the line. Before I left, I changed the streaming passwords, canceled my card from the grocery app, and removed my name from her emergency contact list. I also emailed our property manager asking for a lease meeting as soon as possible. Because advice number 1 is this: when you leave, leave on paper too. Then I sent one text. Imagine thinking I'd stay. And I blocked her before I could see the typing bubbles. I spent that night in my company's training unit, a small furnished place they keep for out-of-town techs. It smelled like old carpet and fresh paint, like a room that never fully becomes anyone's home. I lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling until my eyes burned. The next morning, my phone lit up with a message request from Merk. He couldn't reach me through Aloan, so he tried his own way. His message was one line: "Bro, don't be dramatic, it was funny." That was the moment my shame turned into clarity. This is advice number 2. When someone calls your pain funny, don't argue about feelings. Ask for facts, save them, and get out. The communication proof came from someone I didn't expect. One of Aloan's friends, the quiet one who barely laughed, sent me a screenshot from their group chat. It showed Aloan typing, "He actually thought I'd say yes," followed by Merk writing, "Post it, this will blow up." Under that was Aloan's line again. "So delusional, imagine thinking I'd marry him." And the reactions were laughing emojis stacked like bricks. I didn't reply to the friend. I just saved the screenshot and backed it up to my work tablet, the one Aloan never touched, arrived through because Aloan's I knew she would try to rewrite the story. Merk posted a story the from money a rooftop bar on Route 66 with a location tag. I returned the ring, and the jeweler sent the receipt to my phone. Aloan was in the background laughing, was the one holding up her drink like she was celebrating. So there it was, stacked and simple. It wasn't about the money. What she said, what I spent, it was about the finality, and where she went after crushing transaction, and I still hadn't spoken to her once. Closed. On Friday, our property manager set a meeting for Monday morning. She said we needed to decide who stayed, who left, and how the deposit would work. The apartment had rules, and rules don't care about heartbreak. Meanwhile, Aloan started panicking. She tried to contact me through a school email address I didn't even know she had saved. The subject line was, "We need to talk like adults." I didn't answer. Because adults don't humiliate you in public and then demand a calm conversation on their schedule. And I had already learned what Aloan called not that deep. On Sunday night, Aloan finally showed up at the training unit. I hadn't told her where I was, but Merk knew my company and guessed. She stood at the door in a hoodie with wet hair, eyes red, like she'd practiced looking hurt. A week had not even passed, and she was already trying to reset the scene. She whispered, "Tavian, please." And that was the hook that could have pulled me back if I didn't have receipts. Confrontation 2 happened right there in the hallway. I asked, "Why did you say that about me in front of everyone?" Alohan's face tightened and she said, "I didn't mean it. You know my friends get wild. I was just trying to keep it light." I pushed. I said, "You kept it light by calling me delusional while Merck filmed." Her voice went sharp. "You embarrassed me by storming out, Tavian. You made me look cruel." That blame shift hit like cold water. She was mad that I refused to be the joke, and that told me everything. She tried to step closer and I stepped back. I said, "We'll talk at the lease meeting." Alohan's eyes flashed and she snapped, "Fine, but you're not taking the apartment from me." She left and I locked the door. My hands shook for the first time all week. Then I ran another pressure test at work the next morning and the steady gauge calmed me down. Monday came. The lease meeting was in a bland office with a fake plant and a wall calendar showing mountain sunsets. Alohan arrived in a blazer like she was going to a school board event. She brought Merck. He sat down like he belonged there, smug and relaxed, and I knew he thought this was still a show. I had one more killer receipt ready, because people like this only respect what can't be argued. Alohan had tried to log into my cloud storage the night after the proposal. We used to share a family plan and it sent me an alert. I had a screenshot of the app login history showing her device, her location, and the time. It also showed failed attempts to delete a folder labeled Pinion Table. She wasn't sorry. She was trying to erase evidence. Confrontation 3 happened after proof, and it followed the same ugly script. Alohan started with denial. "I never tried to delete anything. I don't even know what you're talking about." I slid the login history screenshot across the desk, and she went still. Then she minimized. "So I tried to remove a video," she said, voice cool. "That's not a crime, Tavian. I was protecting us from drama." She said protecting like she was the hero. Then she partially admitted, because the wall was too solid to pretend. "Okay, Merck filmed, and yes, I said something stupid," she said, eyes flicking toward him. Merck shrugged like it was no big deal, and that shrug made my stomach turn. Then the emotional move hit, right on time. Alohan's voice cracked and she started crying, not softly but loudly, like she wanted the room to feel sorry for her. She said, "I'm under so much stress, Tavian. The board dinner is coming, my job is on the line, and you're abandoning me." I looked at her and kept my voice low. I said, "You didn't humiliate me because you were stressed. You did it because you thought I would stay anyway." And the property manager's face changed, like she finally understood what kind of person Alohan was. Merck tried to jump in, smiling. He said, "Bro, it was a joke, don't ruin her life." And that was his betrayal in real time, because a joke doesn't need a deletion attempt. A joke doesn't need a cover story, and a joke doesn't make a grown woman call her partner delusional in public. The property manager laid out the lease options. I signed to remove myself and forfeit my part of the deposit, clean and final. I did it because peace is worth more than a fight over carpet and cupboards. Alohan stared at the paper like she expected me to fold. But I didn't. I stood up, nodded once, and walked out. The consequences didn't come from me. They came from the video and the panic around it. Merck posted a cropped version anyway because he wanted views, and it spread into the school community. Parents recognized Alohan. They didn't care about my proposal. They cared about the assistant principal laughing at someone's humiliation like it was sport. Her principal called her in, then district HR got involved. Merck abandoned her the moment heat showed up. He sent the raw clip and chat screenshots to protect his own name, claiming Alohan made him film. A month later, Alohan did not become acting principal. She was placed on leave and her board dinner invitation disappeared. In our town, silence can be louder than a headline. 3 months passed. I moved into a small place in Prescott Valley for a new route, closer to bigger contracts. My work got better, and I got promoted to lead tech because my reports were clean and my systems held. I started sleeping through the night again. I stopped flinching when my phone buzzed, and I stopped replaying the restaurant scene because it no longer owned me. Alohan tried one last reach a few weeks after that. Not a call, not a text, not a surprise visit. A handwritten letter slid under my new door, messy and rushed, saying she was sorry and not that person. I didn't respond, because apologies that arrive after consequences aren't always regret. Sometimes they are just fear. I met someone new on a job site in Chino Valley, a calm woman named Nuris Halden who ran safety training for a construction supply company. She spoke plainly, listened fully, and never laughed at someone to impress a room. One evening, we ate at a small, quiet restaurant in downtown Prescott, and the conversation felt easy instead of tense. On the drive home, I thought about my work again. Every building gets one true pressure test, and the weak parts show fast. I didn't lose a relationship that night at Pinion Table. I lost an illusion, and losing that was the first step toward peace. Thank you so much for watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe the channel.